My guest panel today consists of Tani, Milan, and Kristen. Tani's been on the show before. She's the creator of Jupiter's Ghost. We have Tani's longtime friend, Milan Medvec. He's the lead concept artist for Jupiter's Ghost trilogy. It was his idea to turn Jupiter's Ghost Theater into comic for kids who struggle to read. And last, but certainly not least, we have Kristen Kortright, without whom Jupiter's Ghost trilogy would not exist. She designed Jupiter's character and the book's cover and became letterer and colorist for the comic book. I always have this question for artists is, how do you pick projects with the faith that you want your name attached to this and it's not going to be something completely off or wrong from your values?
I guess just knowing the story first. Like, I was given the script first, and it was a good process because we were all involved in like the production process. Like, I had Milan sketches throughout, and you could tell like where the story was going and how it was going to look in the finished product.
And you believe in it? You believe in the story?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
There is that aspect of comic book for kids who struggle to read. Like, how did that come to you? Like, why did you say this as opposed to let's just make a comic book?
Introducing comics is not such a bad idea, I think. And personally, because it does help stimulate the brain. So I think that having it available for everyone, I think, is key.
Who is your favorite character and why?
I'd say Jove, because Jove is Creed's son, and also Jove has epilepsy. So I think I've got a soft spot for that character because it started off not as a male or a female, just as a character, and I saw a lot of myself as I was writing it. And then it just evolved into being a father-son relationship, when actually it's a reflection of a father-daughter relationship between my dad and myself. And spoiler alert, but there is...
Welcome to Compassiviste Dialogues. I'm your host, Ali Horiat. My goal in this program is to educate our audience about various global issues and how we can help. My guest panel today consists of Tani, Milan, and Kristen. Tani's been on the show before. She's a choreographer, producer, visiting UN lecturer, was a Cambridge lecturer, a UNESCO member, and the founder of Tani Gill dance company, TGDC. And she intimately opened up about her life challenge and aspirations in the previous episode where I spoke with her, and we got some very private information out of Tani, and she felt comfortable sharing, and she was worried about her family watching, but now she's happy they watched. She's the creator of Jupiter's Ghost. We have Tani's longtime friend, Milan Medvec, who arrived in the UK as a refugee and worked to lead animator on famous film games such as Wallace and Gromit. He worked on popular games such as Roller Coaster Tycoon, which I see ads for that when I'm online. So I know what that, I've never played it, but I know what that is. Created a short film for the NHS to acknowledge nurses and doctors that served during the pandemic, collaborated and produced educational films for Cambridge University Botanical Gardens, and now runs live drawing classes for graduates in King's College, Cambridge University. One huge achievement after another. From a humble arrival that challenges the notion refugees are society's burden, Milan holds a master's in 3D animation. He's the lead concept artist for Jupiter's Ghost trilogy, the graphic novel we're here to discuss today. It was his idea to turn Jupiter's Ghost Theater into comic for kids who struggle to read. And last, but certainly not least, we have Kristen Kortright. Kristen, your name sounds like a superhero out of a comic book. So it's fitting that you have this position that you do. Without whom Jupiter's Ghost trilogy would not exist. She designed Jupiter's character and the book's cover and became letterer and colorist for the comic book. She holds a bachelor's in art with a concentration in digital animation and motion, producing a comic with SVA class by Carl Potts, which if you don't know who that is, I'll let Kristen fill you in. Kristen published comics under her own comic company, Screaming Fish Comics. And a fun fact, Kristen attends several Comic-Cons in the US with opportunities to meet actual artists working for Marvel. Hello, everyone behind Jupiter's Ghost, and welcome to Compassiviste Dialogues. I'm going to start with Tani, since the idea started with you. Run us through how this all started and what your incentive was behind Jupiter's Ghost.
I think I'm going to start at the end of the beginning, if that makes sense.
At the end of the beginning, okay.
Yes, we wrapped up production. We had 2 shows, a world premiere at London at Cockpit Theatre, which sold out, and I was as shocked as everyone else. Really grateful and humble that it was very well received, because in theatre and film, this is, I would say, in film, sci-fi is obviously very common. It's not, no one raises eyebrows. But in theatre, it is seen a bit, I think I probably said it in the podcast earlier, it's a bit Buck Rogers, and it can be a bit naff in, a live show. So once all that was over, I thought, oh my God, what next? And it was just, sort of a couple of weeks after the show wrapped up. And we were in Italy, and Milan was with his friends, and he just came to top up his Coke or something. And he was like, what's wrong with you? Why the long face, Miss Successful Director? And I'm like, oh, what do I do now? It's like this slump. And he said, what about a comic? Just so like whimsically. I'm going to hand that over now to Milan. You can tell the rest of the story.
Well, so as it happens, that was kind of the first impression I got from Tani when I walked up to her. So I could see the elation and the sadness at the same time, so kind of like the mixed feelings of it. And it was just loosely said, hey, how about a comic? Now, she looked at me and said, oh yeah, why not? Now, see, when we were rehearsing for the whole show, from the moment we actually first had our audition and rehearsals and everything, Tony asked me to film a lot of footage for the actors. So I got to see how the actors performed. And with that comes very closely to animation as well, because when I used to do animation, we had to actually act out movements before we actually start animating. So in a way, it's acting in itself. So it's a transferable skill, and I can look at it, then I see how the poses are going, how animated all these actors are, and I can see it through them. They're trying to channel that character across. And I'm just seeing a variety of different movements and everything. And it's not just like reading a script in front of you. They have to like really dive into the character, what it means to be Crete or Jove or Jupiter. So I got to see that firsthand, and I've got an extensive library of footage, reels, which I actually edited for Tani, which were the promo videos and trailers that you've seen. So I knew exactly where it stood. So I'm just looking at this and said, I've got the entire reference right in front of me. So I thought, well, since I have that, it makes sense to make a comic out of it. And that's where I got my inspiration from making all these poses that you see. The first issue that we've just finished. So these are all actually taken from the actual reference footage. And as we were, as I was creating them, then I thought it could even potentially be an animation at some point in the future. So an animation requires animatics. They require storyboarding. So in a way, it could be a storyboard in itself. So that was one of the main idea I had for it, if you will. So, and then the rest came to it when we required, okay, we still need a colorist, someone who can actually color everything. And I was happy to do all the sketching and all the planning, panel working. And this is where we came across Kristen, and she had a very, very talented, input into the comic, and which we really appreciate. And I can pass it over to Kristen for that one.
Yeah, how did you get involved, Kristen?
Yeah.
Why did you get involved?
I think, Tani was looking for a digital artist in one of the Facebook groups that I was in. So I applied, and and then I got to design the character of Jupiter for them. And it was pretty exciting to get involved and do all the coloring, because coloring is like one of my favorite parts of the comic book process. I studied a lot of color theory for my animation degree, and I just like how it can set the mood for the story, and you can create different settings just by like changing up the color palette. So yeah.
And then you also designed the character for the comic, Jupiter's
Yeah, I got to
character for the
design
comic,
Jupiter.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And how did that come to you? Like, how does it designing a character work? Because when I was looking at all of this, to me it felt like this is kind of like creating a human out of nothing. Because it's different when you're casting. Because I know a little about film, and casting a character is very different in real film, because you're kind of thinking, I need a person who played this role, if they look like this, or if they sound like this, whatever. You kind of like look through a reference of people, and you're like, you did great, okay, I'm going to cast you. But when you design a character, it's very different. Like, you're creating something out of nothing, right? So how did you go through the process of making Jupiter?
Well, I guess I like to base what a character looks like on their personality and what they have to do in the story. So in the script, she has to be like graceful, but also powerful and independent. And she's a dancer in the stage production. So I kind of based it on that. Like, I made a muscular but slender and graceful figure that could do like the dance poses that Milan was going to draw in the narrative. And then the colors were based on the earth, because she represents nature and the earth. So I used the blues and greens and warm colors.
Mm-hmm.
What I'd like to add was, out of all the 50 applicants, because this Christian will know, these Facebook groups are international. So it's just like there are thousands of talented artists, and it's like, who do you pick? But Christian, without asking, usually you pick them, and then in the selection process, a bit like auditioning, there's a callback,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in the, shall we say, comic callback situation, you tell them, can you make a character or something in the line to see your work in relation to what we're doing? And Christian did it without even me asking for it. She was just like, so I looked at the script and I'm like, here's Jupiter. And I was like, wow.
Okay.
It blew our minds. Yes, it was incredible.
Yeah. So she had the right kind of fit, so to speak, artistically, more than anything else. So those are like, and I always say when there is artistic alignment, there is spiritual alignment.
Yes,
because it's just natural, because art is an expression, and it comes from your being, because you cannot express what's not in your being. And so for me, art is very difficult to define, in the sense that, I could see an artist, paint a beautiful painting of somebody's dog or portrait or whatever, but that's paying the bills. So to me, it's not your expression anymore. I hesitate to call it art. I call it very good work. Like, it's really well done. I can't do a portrait that looks like you, just like that. I can't even draw to save my life. But so it's a lot of talent. But is it art? For me, art has to be expression. So like here, you're telling me Kristen came in with art, and you're like, ooh, we love it. And that's where the relationship kind of blossomed from. Now, Kristen creates the dancer who's strong and graceful and all of that. But Tani, Jupiter for you also, or at least the main feature of what you're doing is also showing hidden disabilities. And it comes across in a lot of what you do. Since I've met you, we've become friends, and I know a lot of what you do kind of showcases that. So how are you empowering the audience and the people you want to relate the comic book to, in terms of this character and the usage of disabilities in your work?
I think it's touching on earlier on what you said with regards to spiritual alignment, regardless of whether you're religious or not. It's not about that. So it's about that feeling of just when someone enters a room, you just either know you're going to get on with them or not, right? And that's the kind of alignment I think the three of us had. But getting back to your question, yes, I think for over, I'd say 3 decades, not talking about my epilepsy, because medically I'm not epileptic, but I have it. So hidden disabilities don't really have a voice. It's predominantly a physical, visual disability that gets recognized for obvious reasons. So by supporting, so I've done work with Great Ormond Street. I also was a patient there when I was a very young girl. And these are the sort of the background information I fed some of my actors who were taking on the role without giving any spoilers. So one of the characters has epilepsy, but it's not sort of very obvious in the beginning. So that's something the audience took away, saying, now I can tell my 6-year-old daughter that, you could be a performer, because the first thing that we tend to shy away from is any work environment with a lot of lights. So I was born loving film and dance, and then I'm told you can never do that, just in case of the strobe light, and that triggers you. But, decades later, here I am. And that is what I want to show, that you can do it too. And I can help you do it. I can help you take you there. So it's not just, oh, I'm cute, I'm here, I'm your inspiration. No, I will hold your hand and take you there. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does a lot, actually, because I have a few friends stateside, and they've made films about autism. And one of them, actually, his name's Oliver Munoz. He self-funded the film and directed it, wrote it. He did everything but act in it, okay? And he selected the lead character, who's an autistic person. And it got, rave critical reviews and all of that. And, it's Nathan's Kingdom is the name of that film. And it's really amazing. And, a few other people too, who are working in that space of saying, hey, no, just because you're labeled as having this as a disability, it's actually not, something that you should teach people to feel like, oh, I can never because of this, or I have dyslexia, so I can never go to university because, that's what the norm says. So that's one of the reasons I'm on board with all of this, because I don't believe in any of that. I've seen so many talented people come from so many different walks of life, and what we are labeling as, disability, which I think that itself should be one of those words that should disappear, because we've done well in changing some of the vocabulary, which has changed some of the movements we have. I mean, we're more inclusive today simply by changing our vocabulary a little bit. We don't use certain words that we used to use when I was a child. And so that's kind of opened doors and brought inclusivity. But I think as we progress, people like you guys are pioneering the way to say, hey, no, it's not a disability. It's actually a power on its own that we need to kind of look into. And, speaking exactly of that, this is more personal, Milan. I have a question, about your journey, because that is also an empowering journey. That is also right alongside everything that you guys are doing right here.
Yes.
Refugee,
right.
To the UK, and then not being what the media sometimes portrays, or what extremist groups like to kind of promote in the media, that, oh, the refugee comes to our country and then, yada, 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 all the negativities. So run me a little bit through this journey, because I look at you and speaking of this comic and Jupiter and superheroes and stuff, I mean, that's really what you are. You come here without all the powers that some people are given, and yet you are, moving higher and higher every day, achieving things, to, living your dreams, so to speak, and believing in yourself. So tell me a little bit about that journey.
So, I mean, the journey with the whole family, we moved here in 84, I think, a long time ago. And it was a very sort of need for my parents to well, give us a better life, as you say. And I think, but one of the hardest things was learning how to adapt to different societies in general, because when you come to another country, you adapt its habits and everything else that goes with it. So it's conforming to that kind of style and society. So and without that, I don't think maybe I would have had the opportunity I've had since being here. And I always try to use it to my fullest extent. Any opportunity that I have, I just try and pounce on within my ability if I can do it. But it was a great message to my parents that they made sure that we did quite well in our life as well as in our professional life. So but it's nice. It's knowing the actual differences between how cultures actually work, and knowing like when you go to another country, or go to visit another country somewhere else, it's always respectful to always respect other people's cultures, where they come from. Besides the fact that where you live as well. But I think it's become more and more multinational as well. We do have like a lot of tolerance towards other people as well, which is, it's kind of I don't know how to sort of balance it out, if it's a good thing, or how does it, how does it actually incorporate into other people's society as well. So, but it's definitely tolerance and knowing how to actually, just become a really useful member of society as well.
And how did you navigate that exact concept, how to become a useful member of society? I mean, where did you tell yourself, I got to keep on this track so that I can be, a useful member of society, or somebody who's benefiting from this move?
I mean, the first thing was education. Straight away, education was always the first thing that was built into us. We stuck by knowing that, look, everyone has ability to do something in their life, and knowing how to focus on it and be able to say, okay, I can do this, and persist with it instead of just giving up and say, you know what, I'm done, can't do it. And it's, I suppose, having a very sort of stubborn way of looking at it. Nothing's ever easy in life. You've got to really fight for what you study, where you work, and because it does show character within you, and you know what you can actually achieve. And it also opens up other doors, avenues. You learn other things as you go along. I mean, my theory has always been you never stop learning throughout life, and I've kind of held on to that, and I've had a mixture of different sort of experiences because of it. Because sometimes there's things where it seems like, oh no, I'm not sure I can do that, but sometimes I get a little bit of a nudge.
I get that a lot.
Yeah, nudged into the right direction and then decent support, and you can say, you know what, I think I'm good. I can do this. I can do this. And throughout life,
yeah, you're right. You're right. Sorry to cut you off, but when you say that, it's so true, because I find myself having the confidence and the drive to keep pushing and doing. And through it all, I keep, my team keeps growing, because I'm like, I want to do this. I believe we can do this. We should do this. But then I know nothing about how to do this. I have zero education on this. So let's bring some more people on. And so, it mushrooms and it grows. So you're absolutely right on that. And stay in school, basically.
Yeah. I mean, education is one thing and experience is another. But if you merge the two together, it's quite a strong bond. I mean, there have been times when I learned on the job. I've learned how to do things, manage things by myself. But now we've got so much access to, the like YouTube and all this other help that we're getting, even through AI as well. Sometimes it feels like it's taking us by the hand to another place, sort of thing. Which is, I know it's another topic, AI, which I want to actually bring up as well, which is quite integral to the actual story of Jupiter's Ghost. And I thought, because seeing it from there is very much how much technology surrounds us, and how we actually can evolve around it. Does it, is it a distraction for us, or does it help us? Is it going to take over? All kinds of questions keep popping up. So,
And how do you deal with it when those questions pop up? Because I think there's a fine line between the ethics and the use of it for good and the use of it for, the capitalist purpose of this will make the whatever it is I'm doing better only for generating more revenue, for example, but not really to bring my expression onto the table. So how do you, navigate that in arts?
I mean, I'm more on the fence with AI. Reason being is for companies now, they want quick results. Just quicker the better, everything speed. It's all about result and getting it. I don't care how you do it, just get it done. That seems to be the default sort of behind the industry. But what I think about what I like about AI is it's just I see it as a tool and nothing else. I think if I'm writing an email, I need to construct something. I'm not sure about grammar. I set it through an AI just to give it a once over. So there are useful aspects about AI, even programming as well. I know a friend who's doing a programming course it's an open university, and he said that sometimes he uses AI just to get the right code for it, whether C++ or Python. So yeah, it has its uses, but from my perspective, I think it's that one thing we'll never replace is the enjoyment that we have for creating things. Like you can compose a song or write a book, but it's the whole process of actually doing it. Why are we doing it? It's because we enjoy doing it, and that's something that AI will never replace.
And that's in the prompt. You say exactly what I normally tell people. I tell people, so you used AI to write the paragraph or the post. You used AI to create the image that you put on Instagram that got a lot of likes or whatever. But at the end of the day, as much as you want to discredit the human input, if it was not for the human who said, I'd like this kind of image, which I'm not an artist to draw, which I would have had to, for example, bring in a friend artist or hire an artist, an independent artist. Regardless, it would have been my work. The only part that would have been my work would have been the prompt. Whether it was me telling Kristen, I have this idea for this character. Can you draw it for me? Or whether I'm saying it to ChatGPT. They're two different people who are going to do it. It's not me. So that output never would have come from me, but the creation would have come from me, and the kind of revisions would have come from me. Because even, if you are working with AI, you'd be like, maybe the sun a little more yellow, right? Regardless. So you still have revision. And like you said, it's a tool, just like that freelancer or artist or, member of your team is an extension of yourself. Like everybody here, I feel like, is an extension of Tani's kind of formation or ecosystem, because it's her creation and then it's people coming together to manifest. It's not people coming together to create, because the creation's already created, right? It's a manifestation process. And the more aligned people become together, that's when unforgettable art happens. That's when unforgettable expressions happen, because it's perfection. So there are, for example, speaking of music, there are songs that, have been tested for centuries and, they stay, whether it's classical music or, rock, not centuries, but decades, and they've stayed. And there's songs that we don't remember. They were one-hit wonders. We'll never remember them again because it was a momentary thing with a lot of good marketing and a lot of good money thrown at it, so it became popular. That's going to leave. So whether you used AI or not, doesn't matter. It's the heart of it, right? It's always the heart of it. So I'm not averse to using AI at all, and I tell people that. And it's the same thing I tell people, about guns. I tell people, go to the shooting range, enjoy, all sorts of weapons, whether it's archery or guns, or go to the shooting range, go to a range, enjoy that sport, just like you could enjoy golfing. But do not take the gun with you out into the street, because then the chances of you using it, even for self-defense, are dangerous. That's my philosophy. So it's the same thing here. Use it in its space and for its purpose. It's designed to assist you.
Yes, absolutely.
Do not use it to manipulate. Do not use it for, these gains that you can realize, are not part of the expression anymore. So, you said it perfectly. It's a tool. And if you are self-disciplined and if you are true to your art, you will never abuse a tool of your art, of your expression, because there's that spiritual boundary that doesn't allow you to do that.
Yes. Yeah.
But when you don't have that and you come into any art without ethics, you're going to abuse it. And you see that happening, especially in the visual arts a lot. You get a lot of people coming in and like, well, maybe if we dressed a little more provocatively, the show would sell more. But there's no ethics in the expression that needs to show the provocative clothing or dance or anything else, but it's for the sale.
Yeah.
Same thing with AI. Let's push the limits a little, and it's wrong. So I'm with you there on the ethics. Kristen, speaking of that, how do you respond to, like, Tani found you on the Facebook group. You read the script, you liked it, you dug deeper into it. You like, oh, I like where this is going. I want to be a part of it. Let me send them something and see what happens. How do you navigate that? How do you navigate how you involve yourself in works? Because I'm not. I'll be honest. I mean, there's no point lying. I'm not a huge comic fan. I watch the films. Like everybody else, like the majority. But there are people who are very like diehard comic people. I have a friend of mine who goes to the San Diego Comic-Con like annually, like there's different shows, dresses up and has the whole thing and speaks several of these languages that are from the comic world. Like from Star Trek or whatever, actually speaks. I didn't even know it's real. I thought he was joking with me until he showed me that there's an actual like language. But yeah, so he's all about that. And he's got ethics. Like sometimes, he sits there and he's like, Ali, I gotta tell you something. I said, what? He's like, see, this is a lie. And I said, what's the lie? He's like, they're using this. This would never happen in the actual setting of the comic or the actual mind of the people who begun this project. But now this new group have taken over and they're treating it with marketing and all these other things. And they've just like gone sideways on the characters and everything. This is so wrong. And then he like, actually, you feel his anger because of the abuse of the comic, right? So that's when I started realizing in every art, there is this level of ethics that comes into play, this level of truthfulness or responsibility or accountability to bring some kind of truth through the nature of it. So with Kristen, when you joined, what are your parameters when you join a project? Like if I call you and say, hey, I'm looking for a character, do you just draw it or do you have questions?
Well, yeah, I have to, I guess I got into this project because I was interested in the concept and the narrative. Like what you were saying, like as a comic book reader, I can understand how the fans can get really, readers can get really attached to characters, and it matters how they are depicted and the quality of the work and the narrative. So, yeah, I enjoyed the concept of this one, and Tani put it up as a sci-fi story, so I like those, and it's futuristic. I like how those can be thought-provoking, and so yeah, I mean,
Christian asked, I think you sent a couple of emails before saying, can you tell me more about her? This is even after I shared the script, because I could see she needed to, you have to feel it, as you were saying, you got to feel and get into that person, whatever role you're playing, whether it's a CEO or a, acting role. We all have to, it's not the case of wearing a mask, don't get me wrong, but being passionate. And I think Christian's passion showing it was, she had this insightful nature in not just generically sketching it. She was like, okay, but is she real? Oh, she's a reflection of Earth. Okay. And then she just, that's when this character came to life, because she added other things, the more, I don't know, Christian, if that's kind of how we did it, isn't it?
Yeah, just like understanding the narrative.
And did you always feel safe doing the work? I ask this because a lot of times in production work, artists come in, and people don't know this behind the scenes when a film is made or theater is made, that a lot of people come in certain spaces and they leave, and they don't see the whole production before they're done their part, right? And like when you're in film and you're in post-production, for example, you make good money, your work is beautiful, you love it, you're passionate, all of that is great. But you don't really know what the film is until other parts of it are finished along with yours, and then you kind of hand it over, and everybody, and then the rest gets done. And then when it's finished, they call you in and like, ta-da! Here, watch a screening, and here's some popcorn. And that's the first time you see your work actually, in full. But by then, it's a little too late because it's going up. Like after you, a week later, some other celebrities are going to watch the film. Then there's a premiere, and then it goes into the theaters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little too late to be like, oh, I don't want to be a part of this project or whatever. So I always have this question for artists: is how do you pick projects with the faith that you want your name attached to this, and it's not going to be something completely off or wrong from your values?
Mm-hmm. I guess just knowing the story first. Like I was given the script first, and it was a good process because we were all involved in like the production process. Like I had Milan sketches throughout, and you could tell like where the story was going and how it was going to look in the finished product.
And you believe in it? You believe in the story? You don't need to give the story away, but you believe in the story?
Yeah,
because
it's pretty cool.
We know the story, but the audience doesn't know story. They're going to go to the theater or read a comic book or watch the film that's coming, whatever part of this to get the story. But you believe in the story, right?
Yeah.
I mean, coming in, you believe in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And you've run your own publishing company for comics.
Yeah, I do. I self-publish my books, yeah.
You self-publish your books.
Mm-hmm.
And why did you choose to, like, when you create the publishing house, is it only to self-publish your books, or are you open to a wider net of people saying, hey, would you publish my comic?
Right now I'm just publishing my own books. It's just like my own thing. I mean, I guess I'd be open to it. I just don't know the logistics of all that right now. But yeah, it's just where I use it to print my books for comic conventions and sell them around Louisiana and then digitally. So yeah,
and you attend all the Comic Cons and you meet all the people who kind of work in your industry too.
Yeah, I love going to the artist alley and talking to the people at the tables around me, and that's pretty fun. Yeah.
Do you get a lot of ideas from those places?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to go to all the panels where they talk.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you go to the panels and stuff that you're talking about, are you getting ideas for expanding the publishing house? Because this is your passion at the end of the day. Are you looking to grow this into, hey, let me bring in more people with amazing, new ideas of comics and characters and whatnot, and then publishing them? Is that something you're doing in the future?
Yeah, probably.
Probably?
Yeah, I think so. My main focus right now is on the art. So, like, I like to be involved in my projects and other people's projects, but I would like to learn more the logistics of publishing. Okay. So, like, right now I did, like, Kickstarter and online publishing and local conventions. But, like, my next goal is to have an online store and maybe then start, possibly contacting people and publishing their books.
Okay, so this would be a good place because we'll have a lot of audience into comics to say Screaming Fish Comics. If you're looking for a place to go to and working with someone who knows their way around, reach out to Kristen at Screaming Fish Comics. Tell me one side question because I'm interested myself. Tell me a little about working with Carl Potts.
Oh, yeah. So I'm taking his online class at SVA. And he's really nice. I'm doing it's actually a book based on a Bible story. So he is really helpful in, like, how do you draw a visual narrative? Like, because a comic's kind of different from what I do with animation, where you have to tell the story with still images. So he's helping us draw it in a way that it's understandable because, like, just when I do it myself, it's hard to judge if the audience is going to get it, like what's happening. So he'll help us with like the script writing and drawing sketches and all that to make sure it makes sense. Okay.
And speaking of comics and the audience, Milan, this one's for you actually. So a lot of, partly, first of all, run us through my question's part two, actually. Question number one, run us through the idea you had, making this comic book, because it wasn't just like, hey, we've got nothing to do, let's make a comic book. There is that aspect of comic book for kids who struggle to read. That's a whole thing in it. Where's that tie in? Like, how did that come to you? Like, why did you say this as opposed to let's just make a comic book?
Well, I saw that. I know that comic books may be seen as like not the ideal for reading for kids, but I always thought that a child's ability to read can always be more sort of spread out within their lifetime. So there could be some kids pick up reading much later on in life. Some can pick it up straight away. So it's very much more of a case of like, how do you actually pinpoint what is deemed to be the ideal time to start reading? I know people haven't touched books since they just were in school. They never read, and then much later in life they pick up a book, start reading. So there's never a very definitive time of like, we must read at this time. I'm a late reader myself, and I always find that having something accessible for people who think that, what, actually I might like comics because it's given me a visual aid to read what I want to read. Where other people, like, they can just choose through books, no problem. So it's how do you actually say that? No, it must be always textbook all the time, textbook, which is I get it. It's very important for that, but introducing comics is not such a bad idea, I think, and personally, because it does help stimulate the brain. It's like when I read a book without just a regular novel, I can visualize story. I can see in my head. I can say, okay, well, this is great. It's fantastic. Some people like to have the visual in front of them and see what their interpretation of it is. So I think that having it available for everyone, I think is key, and not just having it just books, which is great as well. Don't get me wrong, but I think comics definitely has a place for readers. Absolutely. Besides the fan art of it, because I love comics myself. I'm reading Planets at the moment. Sort of a manga book. So yeah, it definitely has space for everyone.
And so you're already answering my second question, which is the whole idea of don't buy your kids comics because it's distraction and it's not good for their education or all that stuff. You're not on board with that bandwagon.
No, I don't think it's a distraction. No. I think no.
Okay. So it's an education on its own.
Depends also but comics are a bit like music, isn't it? Like, you have that sticker, and back again, shows my age, but back when, censored lyrics or whatever, right? So, they blame like, oh, my son went and killed someone, so I guess it's Eminem's fault. No, it's like, what did you do to bring your son up or daughter or whatever, right? It's take responsibility for your own actions and who you are, because it's very easy to blame the book or the artist or this or that. But yes, I think I too relate with Milan, and I'm going to ask Christian as well. I wasn't an avid reader, but my brother just chewed through books. So I had this massive complex, and my mother came to the rescue in my teen years with all these illustrated novels, so that I had an idea of Bronte and all that before joining university. And living in the shadow of readers, you develop this massive complex. So I think outing that taboo that if you like comics, there's nothing wrong with it, as long as you don't overdo anything, right? Everything in moderation and the right stuff, right?
Balance.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I view comics as like an art form, just like a novel or a film. So I think they do need more respect, as a way to tell a story just visually.
Actually, I was going to ask that, and you kind of started the conversation. So, for example, we have schools all around the world. I'm just going to use big names. Think of, London or Paris. Think of the Louvre. And there are schools that go there as an educational excursion to look at still pictures, paintings. That's what the Louvre holds, and sculptures. And we call that educational. But you'll never find a school board that says, we're going to go to Comic-Con as an educational experience for the children under the banner of education. It may happen on a weekend under the banner of entertainment, extracurricular stuff for the school. Let's take the kids out and let them bond and have fun together. But it's never under the light of education, even if the comic, the whole event can be educational. So that's where Kristen's kind of like you're pointing at, which is very true. Like, we keep certain types of arts purely entertainment, and then we limit them. We're like, if you're a good kid or you get straight A's or something, I will buy you this comic book that you're only allowed to read on a Sunday because this does not fall into your educational platform. And so how do you guys challenge that? I mean, how are we going to tell the public that no, this raises creativity, this raises imagination, this increases your child's comfort with reading and supports in other parts of their educational life and journey, and it may even bring them into collectives of like-minded people, because sometimes I think to sci-fi and comic and stuff that really taught me a lot when I was putting the foundation together for Compassiviste. I watched X-Men several times over because it gave me that whole concept of bringing people together who are there in numbers, but they just don't fit in the places that they are. So you could be a Compassiviste as a person living in the middle of New York City, working on Wall Street. You don't fit in your environment, but you don't know any better because you don't know where your environment is. Now, if somebody built an environment and put a big banner on top saying this is your environment, then it becomes easier for you to find your way to your environment, right? To your own art, to your own people, so to speak, your own expression. How do you guys feel that's going to happen? Because this is what I'm seeing from Jupiter's Ghost as a brand, no longer just a comic book, like the theater, the comic book, later animation later, all the stuff that comes from it. It's developing a certain amount of confidence. It's bringing a certain level of education. It's empowering, and it's allowing people to believe in themselves and do something more radical, so to speak, than go to, engineering, get married, and live quietly in a suburb.
I think I'll start it. I'm just going to snowball it to the real artists over here, because I just did the words. I just wrote it. They brought it to life. So 2 points. I think the first point is, in history, if you really look back, the first illustration was actually a painting, because that was their tool back then. Okay. So paintings were used, and it was a taboo. If you even knew how to paint, you were probably, possessed by the devil or whatever, right? And a lot of them started with political messages or religious. So everything started with art, where it's just the art form was different back then. And so I think it's still happening now. It's just everything has become digital, and everything in schools now. I mean, there's no chalkboard. It's just like, I think the classroom, the teacher is illustrating every day, every single lesson. Maths is a massive illustration of numbers. Science, the number of, sketches for experiments. And I think, to me, I see that as Christian and Latin, the illustrating, and one's the concept artist. And so I think you're doing that all the time. And all these art forms, dance and a drawing and illustration and theater, movement is the key form to all movement and connection. Whether it's just from a wrist movement to your entire body, and that's what links everything. So with regards to the Louvre and education, I think it's not about the physical aspect. It's about bringing it closer to children from a very young age. Because by the time you're 3, your character is set. You are who you are when you're 3 years old. That's just a scientific fact. And I think the Montessorian method of everything is touch and feel, very visual. I think this kind of falls in line with people who prefer more visual aesthetic and learn from feeling. And I'm going to hand that to Kristen, just because I can.
Yeah, I think like getting it in front of kids in schools would be good, like to make it accessible. But I think like, yeah, with animation and comics, it helps like bring the message to children because they like to watch visuals, and I think they can connect to that better than like it's more imaginative, and it puts the visual story in front of them better than if they're trying to read words out of a book, and it's easier for them starting out, like when they can't read very well yet. You know, they can see the picture along with the words and get more involved with the story that way.
Milan?
Yeah, it's also, I think that when you express things, like as I said before, that when you read a book and you actually can visualize things through words, there's certain things that when you see something visual, you can't always show things that are, straight in front of you. You can see, you can relate to it. Like if you see like a picture of someone hugging someone, you can visualize that. You can see, but you can see the essence of the actual the feeling behind it. So just like art, when you look at an art painting, what are we looking at? We're still looking at images. They haven't gone anywhere, and they never will. So we go to museums because it also has culture in it. Everything stems from culture. So, like if you go to Japan, how many people do you think they read comics in Japan? It's part of their society. Actually, it's ingrained in them. I mean, it came from the West, believe it or not. So it's always going to be around us, and I think schools shouldn't be scared of comics as like just a distraction. What it is, because every image that you see in front has a story in its own, without words even. Besides books, which have got words, so do images, and I think amalgamating the two does send quite a powerful message. And I think it shouldn't be left on the side shelf for now. I think it should definitely be more encouraged and see how people can pick it up, because it's always going to be very it can be accessible. I mean, it is, but obviously some schools choose not to because they think it is a distraction. So but yeah,
it has been pitched to schools, but interestingly enough, it's actually colleges, upper school, 16 plus, that have picked up on it, and we're hoping to market it to at least 4 different state upper schools, shall we say. So the interest is there. I think it's just like what Milan said. They're a little bit wary of is this a good idea? But what we're forgetting is we need to ask the students what they want. And that's just a whole education. I don't want to get into that political side of it, but yeah, they just.
But it's also the pioneering work of the artist. I feel like you brought up the Montessori school system. That school system happened because a lady decided this isn't working. This archaic model we have isn't working. So she went to work to actually present something new. And then people, liked it, they caught on to it, and then it blossomed into this global thing, that we have for a long time now. I mean, it's not, this Montessori is not a 10-year-old system, but I think we're due for another revolution in education. And that revolution really should bring in the visual and should bring in the creative nature of people into perspective as well. Because things like this, things like comics, things like art, returning to art, bringing expression back to people is something that we've lost over the last few decades with, the kind of latter or the ending of the industrial era, where everything became information and everything became processing the information, and it became really flow charts and charts and designs and metrics and values and all of that, whereas it pulls away from the art. And I think what you guys are doing is pioneering in the sense that if we can reintroduce the arts back into society, well, that's what Compassiviste is trying to do. So we're all aligned here in that sense. One last question for you guys. In one sentence, one after the other. And I feel bad for the person who's going to answer last because the other two would have taken their answer. But
Yeah,
who's your favorite character? Okay, Tani's last.
Yeah.
Well, Kristen can go first because she got introduced last. Milan will stay in second. And Tani goes to third. Who is your favorite character and why? One sentence, Kristen.
So my favorite character is Jupiter. And why is probably because I really like her innocence, but also that she's independent, and I think people can relate to that and how inquisitive she is, and also because I enjoyed designing her a lot.
She is your character after all, so yes. Okay. Jupiter, Christian. Milan.
I would have to say it's going to be a close one for me, but I'm going to have to say Dr. Creed. For me, it's because obviously being a parent myself, I can sympathize from the way he's going through. He's trying to make enough time for his son, as well as working at the same time, and it's kind of like he's got this way of trying to balance everything, and it's kind of like a parent will do, balance work with personal life. And I think that's a deep, deep appreciation for that character for me. So I'll have to say Creed.
Tani.
Okay. I gotta go with what's left.
Okay.
I'd say Jove, because Jove is Creed's son, and spoiler alert. But there is a little thing between Jove and Jupiter. That's all I'm going to say. Also, Jove has epilepsy, so I think I've got a soft spot for that character because it started off not as a male or a female, just as a character, and I saw a lot of myself as I was writing it. And then it just evolved into being a father-son relationship, when actually it's a reflection of a father-daughter relationship between my dad and myself. Sorry, Dad. It's out now.
This is the second time you're using my show to tell your family things.
I'm coming. I think I'm going to notice a pattern. Oh God,
I know. They're going to notice a pattern of me, and then they're gonna be like, we need to speak to this Ali character. He's spilling all our family secrets. Okay. Thank you, Tani, Milan, Christian.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali, for having us.
You're welcome. And thank you for speaking on Compassiviste Dialogues. And also, thank you for the commitment to spread this empowering story in various media. The work right here is literally, it's Compassiviste Manifest. I mean, this is the goal of Compassiviste, to bring out the expressions, the art. This is why, Compassiviste Publishing is on board even, because it really speaks to the heart of why we do what we do. To the audience, Jupiter's Ghost Trilogy can be purchased from Compassiviste Publishing, where Compassiviste fully backs TGDC's work in theater, books, in the future, animation, and all the rest of beautiful work they do over there. You can support by purchasing the trilogy, watching the soon, I don't know when it's coming, but soon to be released.
June. It's coming in June.
In June. No, not the animation.
The animation.
I know the book's coming in June.
That's coming up.
Yeah, but stay in tune for that, because we're gonna push for that. And attend the show when it comes to a theater near you. And thank you, people, for joining Compassiviste to support our movement and causes through Compassiviste Foundation, our registered charity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ali.
Subscribe to Compassiviste Dialogues and share this episode so more people can learn about the wonderful work TGDC is doing, and to support the trilogy, of which a lot of what you're buying goes directly to charity. So support the trilogy. We're here to help the world together.
We're planting a tree, by the way. I just got a message from the Woodland. Sorry, Ali, I just forgot that.
There you go. See? There you go.
Message.
We just got a message. Yes, read the message. Read the message.
It was actually Ali who gave me this idea, and I was like, let me see. And I reached out, and they reached back, and they said, whenever you want. So I thought, let's start, instead of waiting for the show to come through, let's start with planting a couple of trees for each comic that comes out.
So that's what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
We're okay. So there you go. So you buy a book, and we will donate the proceeds from Compassiviste Publishing to planting a tree. That's what we're doing over here. So there's where the trilogy's benefits are going. We're here to help change the world together. I'm Ali Horiak.